Hi guys, welcome back to Character Design, a Tuts Plus premium course. I'm Ian Yates, and in this video we're going to look at context. Let's begin by taking a quick look at what we're going to cover in this video. Well, we're going to begin by thinking about identifying with personalities. We'll talk about aims, dreams, desires and flaws, and lastly we'll finish off with some further reading, and I'll leave you with an assignment to complete before the next video. Now, giving a character context is all about allowing the viewers to place them. We've spoken about the fact that the word character suggests that we need to think about personality and behaviour, not just about goggly eyes and disproportionate bodies. Well, that's all in aid of allowing our readers to connect with our characters. We want them to bond, to understand, and in order to do that, they need to be able to place our character in context relative to themselves, to their own experiences, relative to other characters. Now, people will draw their own conclusions. Through the power of suggestion, you can encourage them to form their own ideas about your character. You don't need to hand them everything on a plate. Let them use their imaginations. Now, what we're essentially talking about is giving our character a story. In our particular case, this can be challenging. A character which appears in comics or animations is in a much better situation for describing a personal story. Take Batman, for example. Everyone knows Batman. Whether you've read the comics, watched the original TV series, or followed the films and cartoon animations made since, his popularity spans the generations. But what makes him so successful? Well, arguably, it's the fact that we know what he's like. We know his problems. We know his dreams. We know where his drive comes from. He's the classic tragic character, paranoid and obsessed. As stated on Men with Pens, he was often stupid or misinformed or just plain wrong. He was human. So even though we're talking about a bloke who essentially prances around dressed in black latex, we can identify with him. We know where to place him. He has context. Giving a character aims, dreams, desires and flaws, the human condition, all adds drama and empathy. These qualities can all help the reader connect with your character. So think about setting your character in the context of a background story. Give him or her a history, a childhood, triumphs and defeats. Even if it seems difficult to communicate directly in the drawings themselves, it will help you recognise your own character and more than likely influence the way you design him. Now, don't get me wrong, we're designing a static character here, not an elaborate graphic novel or a feature-length animation. It's going to be difficult to communicate complex stories in the brief opportunities we have. But let's think about what we can give a character in terms of history and how we can suggest things visually. Now, here I am in Illustrator once again, using this simple girl character that we were using in a previous demonstration. She serves our purposes quite nicely. So let's now think about some of the things that we can add to her design in order to suggest some of the things that we've been talking about. For example, we have physical attributes. They can be suggestive of storylines in her background. For example, a tattoo. There you go. That's as good an example as any. I'm going to draw a quick heart with a name in it. Like so. There we go. Now, without really having said anything, we've suggested that there's something in her past that we should find out about. Or how about scars, for example, from accidents in her life or operations, or I don't know, even a peg leg, or maybe that's a little bit extreme. Well, we spoke in previous videos about props. For example, clothing can be suggestive of an era. So how about we draw something along the lines of a period drama costume. There we go. That suggests something completely different. Obviously, the tattoo is slightly inappropriate now, so we'll get rid of that. That suggests a completely different character to what we previously had in our minds. Or maybe we can get rid of that. Oh no, we needed the body, of course. I'll just undo a few times to get that colour back. Keep the tattoo there. How about an earring? That's a very simple costume prop that we can add. Now that's also indicative of era and culture, so that's perhaps quite nice and suggestive. There we go, like so. Suddenly she's straight from the 1980s. Or she's Hispanic. I don't know, something like that. Or even, taking that even further, how about... Actually, this sort of links in with our costume idea a little bit. And it also links in with potential scars or past injuries. Let's give her an eye patch. Stick that on top of her eye, of course. Like so. Although she's starting to just look like a pirate, so maybe a bad idea. But these are all suggestive of context in any case. Of course, there is a classic comic way of communicating specific storylines, and that is the speech bubble. Now, such as an example I'm going to show you in a minute with our further reading, this can be a brilliant, obvious, but brilliant way of communicating specific stories, histories, and character traits. May as well keep that typeface, as that's fairly comic-like. And there you go, that also says something about her background and her personality. There we go, she suddenly looks a lot jollier. We'll leave her like that, I think. Now, as I've mentioned, the additional reading I'm about to suggest takes all these ideas further. But as we're designing a character for a website, then why not feature a dedicated page to our character, elaborating on the background of her, and then we'll be able to take advantage of a comic strip and actual story narratives. In any case, that's food for thought. Okay, it's time for some further reading. Now this one's a good example because I'd like you to read all about the MailChimp logo designed by John Hicks. There's a MailChimp blog post here and a post by John Hicks himself on his own site here. Now this is a great example of context because aside from the physical design of the logo itself, the strength of this chimp as a brand comes from a whole team of people who've worked on the user experience of the entire service. Now, this stems from my interest in web design, but even if that's not your particular area of interest, I recommend you take a look at Designing for Emotion by Aaron Walter. Now, Aaron is the lead user experience designer in the team behind MailChimp, and his decisions to make the chimp more than just a logo have led to a very successful connection between what's a simple mailing service and its customers. Aaron talks about making the chimp charming, having him interact with the users in a humorous manner. If you use MailChimp, you'll be familiar with the monkey's personality, what he does, what he wants, and how he behaves. It's the perfect example of context and character design. Now, in terms of an assignment, this is going to involve more brainstorming than anything else. I want you to think of a story, some background history for your character. Consider some storylines which you'll keep to yourself, and then some others which you'll be able to communicate through your illustrations. Now, this is actually quite a tough one, but well worth having a crack at. Next time on Character Design, we're going to look at standing out from the crowd. My name's Ian Yates, and from all of us here at Tuts Plus, thanks for watching.